So next up we have Ulrich Wieser from ICANN, who's going to talk about KinDNS.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Hello. So, well, last night we had this little pub meeting, and I got a little bit disillusioned because I thought Alexei had invited me to celebrate the Swedish National Day today, but no, that's I was informed that's not a thing in Finland. So okay, I get it. So I speak of kindness instead. Okay, so to start with, I would like a show of hands. Who knows what manners is? Oh, a few, okay. So for the rest of you, manners is called the mutually agreed norms for routing security. You could say a kind of best practices for routing. And all the ISPs here hopefully follow them. And some mean voices have said that the DNS people have always been jealous of that. We totally deny that, but now we have kindness. Yes, so, and what kindness is basically, best practices for DNS. And so, yes, so, well, somebody has been really inventive with abbreviations here. But now the routing people have manners and the DNS people have kindness, and together we are a really good team, right? So, yes. Let's see. So, what is kindness for? It is, yeah, basically for everybody who does DNS, but, some people might be a little bit more interested in best practices. And so we have, on the authoritative side, of course, we have TLDs and ISPs, because, the DNS has always, critical zones, you could think of governments, banks, whatever makes our civilization the way we are. And then we have second-level domains who would obviously also benefit from following this. But, some domains are more important than others. And then we have the resolver operators, and I guess a few of them are here in the room. Well, we have 3 different kinds of resolver operators here, and that is public resolvers. You all know Google, Cloudflare, and there's a lot of others, but that's the big ones everybody knows. Then we have let's jump to the other side, the closed or private resolvers. That is, enterprises who run their own resolvers, and then we have the one in the middle is shared private, and that's something shared or private, a little bit strange, right? But think of it if you are an ISP and you run a resolver for your customers, then it's not really a public resolver, but on the other hand, it's not totally private either, right? Because, all your customers are using it. So that is kind of something in the middle. And we thought that, there's maybe different rules that apply to all of these, what you need to do and how you can protect them. And then, of course, for every system, everything you run on the internet, you need to do the usual system hardening, and you need to do that for your DNS stuff, of course, too. And so let's see what we can do. Yes. So we have a lot of participants in this, actually, and the manners people try to keep up with this, and so do we. It's actually a self-assessment. You can go to KinDNS.org. It's not on the site here. And you can assess yourself. It's quite easy, but you need to have some information about how you run DNSs. And we made a survey. Why do people do the self-assessment? And so you see that it's, to know where I stand with my DNS, you see if you follow best practices, do you do running an adequate DNS service is of course a good thing to check. But then a really important part is to convince somebody, because usually it's, if you're responsible for the DNS stuff, it's usually not you who makes all the decisions. It's usually someone higher up who needs to make a decision about, buying new servers, doing new stuff, doing changes. And so here is something that you can use to show what is best practice and what should we follow. And yes, so who is doing this? Authoritative servers, recursive servers, both. So a lot of parties, who run that stuff. It works actually for both of them. And yeah, so then we have operators for TLDs. And now in this part of the world, when we think of TLDs, you will usually think of .fi, .se, .de, .com, .org, .net, all of that stuff. And there's, why would they need to look at this? And they probably don't. They probably do run an adequate service. But that is not true for every part of the world, unfortunately. In other parts of the world, there is registries that we actually need a lot of help. And so we try to provide it. And most registries in Europe try to help. Yes, I would say that. Okay. So then we come to a little bit more technical details. What is included in this here is DNSSEC validation. If you're working for an enterprise, look at your resolver if you do DNSSEC validation. Actually, I used to do IT consulting, and I was consulting at a big insurance company, and I got a list for a project. I got a list of all the security questions. And one of the questions were, all domains are DNSSEC signed. And I was really surprised. I was like, oh, great, they do DNSSEC. And then I checked the internal network. Do you think they would do DNSSEC validation? Well, there's room for improvement. So so DNSSEC validation, of course, is some very easy step you can do. But then you have queue name minimization, and well, that's a very DNS-y thing, but basically it says if you send your query to the root, just send the query for a top-level domain, don't send the whole string. Okay, and then of course there's this DNS over TLS or DNS over HTTPS. Soon there will be DNS over QUIC, and of course a modern resolver could support this so that you can protect your DNS traffic. Because I mean that's something important for everybody. For ISP customers, for an enterprise. I mean your DNS traffic is really privacy sensitive, and encrypting it is one way of protecting it. And then we have some points about data retention, because obviously if you're an enterprise, for example, you would like to do a lot of data retention to, be able to look at attacks afterwards. But if you're an ISP, we hope that you don't do any data retention to not jeopardize the privacy of your customers. There is nuances to this that you need to look at, and that is why we have these different categories in KinDNS. Okay, so, and then we have a lot of discussion points. So rate limiting, for example, is something. I mean, we heard Christian talking about how you protect your DNS authoritative servers, and it's not so easy. And rate limiting could also, just drop queries and, attack you, make you vulnerable in other ways. So it is really a question where we need to have a discussion with the community and see what is a good way to do this. Okay. Then there's CCTLDs and critical zone operators. How should they run their DNS? With the latest development in political Europe, we have a lot of discussions about keeping traffic local, being resilient in different parts of Europe. And that is obviously also a question for DNS, because if the DNS doesn't work, the internet doesn't work. So how does your internet work if you don't have access to a DNS server? And so, but do you have a DNS server close to you, and do you have the right DNS servers close to you is a very important question. Okay. So we have addressing oh, that's really very DNSy. So if you have a big zone that you control, but usually you control the zone contents, but you don't control the distribution, because you give your distribution to Christian, and then he does all the stuff with it. Not manually, okay. But and so there's a lot of there's a lot of steps into this that you don't control yourself, but all these steps are very important to make your zone really available, and so you better look into this. Then we have access reliability, IPv6, obviously. We already heard about that today. RPKI. Right now there's a big discussion going on in RSEG if all root servers should have RPKI on their IP addresses. And you could say that, well, obviously, but on the other hand, the root server system has been very resilient with having diversity. And if everybody uses the same technologies, then we don't have diversity. So there's arguments for both sides, and so we try to, talk to the community and see what is really the best way forward. Yeah, and then obviously the something like KinDNS can not be centrally managed. There needs to be a community to do it, and well, at ICANN we are really good. We fight for the multi-stakeholder model, and so if you feel your call for DNS and would like to engage in KinDNS, we are looking for volunteers for the steering committee. So yeah. So well, it's I would say we have a few success stories for this in the South America. So LACNIC is Latin American and Caribbean, I think. Yes, that is. And so there's a lot of uptake in that region. We did a lot of outreach there, and it really has improved DNS in that region for a lot of ISPs. Yeah, and well, if you have any, yes. So what we want to do more is, engage the community like I do today. I hope you all have a look at your own DNS servers when you go home and see what you can do. And maybe you go to the KinDNS website and make a self-assessment to tell you what would be really good to do. And yeah. Oh, I think I stop early. Well, I hear it's not so. Okay, so with that, I say thank you. And if there's any questions, please feel free.
Thank you, Ulrich. So